We know that Syria and North Korea are not the only rogue states developing, using, spreading dangerous weapons.
US National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster said the United States has learned how to fight back.
The United States will expose and act against those who use cyberspace, social media, and other means to advance campaigns of disinformation, subversion, and espionage.
McMaster then focused on deteriorating security in the Middle East.
We know that Syria and North Korea are not the only rogue states developing, using, spreading dangerous weapons. Now is the time to address serious flaws in the Iran deal and counter Iran's destabilizing activities, including its development and proliferation of missiles and its support for terrorist proxies and militias.
Iran has repeatedly denied those accusations. Washington is wary of the growing complexity of the Syrian conflict, says analyst Karin von Hippel.
Not just because of U.S. and Turkey potentially facing each other off, but Russian troops are there, other Gulf country troops are there, the Israelis have been drawn in recently, and of course the Iranians are there. And so that really is a very dangerous theater where one little mistake could escalate in really frightening ways.
Such an escalation would likely draw in Syria's neighbours. Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi said Islamic State, also known as Daesh, poses an enduring threat.
The task which is facing us is stabilization and reconstructing of the areas which has been occupied and damaged by Daesh. This is a huge task at a time when our oil income has dropped drastically.
The aim of this conference is to bring allies and adversaries together, to put dialogue before confrontation. From North Korea to the Middle East to the rekindling of Cold War rivalries, there is a palpable sense here that the world is becoming a more dangerous place. Moscow's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov did not directly mention the US indictments in his speech. Instead, he was challenged by a question from the audience.
$1.25 million a month of Russian taxpayers' money being spent in trying to influence the American election. Do you see a good return on that investment?
Lavrov's reply was brief.
You know, I have no reaction at all because one can publish whatever one wants. We see how accusations, statements, allegations multiply. Until we see the facts, everything else is just blather. I beg your pardon for a not really diplomatic wording.
Thank you.
Lavrov claimed there was a Western campaign of Russophobia, but the evidence is overwhelming, say analysts.
And the fact is that now we have independent Russian media have named the Troll Factory accounts. Facebook and Twitter have confirmed the Troll Factory accounts on Facebook and Twitter. That is absolutely damning. There is no possible way you can say that that didn't happen. You now have the Department of Justice further confirming it.
Now I see that I promised actually to have some questions, so I think I have to also be very brief. Meaning that I will just say that we are also doing a lot of other things on cyber, on cooperation with the European Union, and in many other areas. The success of NATO, as I said, was partly because we are able to adapt, and we are adapting. But the success is also because we are able to stand united. And NATO is an alliance of 29 democracies with different views, different political leaders, with different opinions about many things. But the strength of NATO is that regardless of those differences, we have always been able to agree around the core task that we stand together, we defend each other, one for all and all for one. And as long as we do that, we preserve the peace, and we are able to make sure that all our citizens, close to 1 billion citizens, live in security. That's what we are doing now, and Germany is playing a key role in that adaptation of the alliance. Thank you so much.
Time for one more question. Yeah, you mentioned Germany. In your expectation, it will be 1.2% in 2024 what Germany is spending on defense. Is Germany fulfilling its responsibilities? You have been very friendly, but maybe you can be more precise also on this question.
Also, I am a friendly guy, that's the starting point at least. Then I think it is important to remember that there has been almost 25 years of cuts. So I welcome that Germany has stopped the cuts. I welcome that Germany has started to increase. I also welcome the fact that Germany actually has sound economic growth, meaning that for you to increase the percentage of GDP requires that you increase with the GDP growth plus something. But I expect, of course, Germany to do more. So this is a good start. I thank you for the extra German contribution, but we expect more, because Germany was part of the decision both in 2014, but we reiterated that pledge as late as in May last year. So when we sit around the table and agree, I expect everyone to deliver. So I expect that Germany should do more. It's a good start, but we expect even more.
Okay. If you have time for one more question from you, please ask your question in English. We have microphones around. Is there anybody? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary General, just one question. You did not mention EU and its initiatives, but I remember the Americans called the Europeans to do more and to invest in efficiency in programs long before 2014. So what do you think about PESCO, just to mention this famous buzzword?
So I think I mentioned EU very briefly at the end, but I was running out of time, so therefore. No, I welcome stronger EU efforts on defence. But it is extremely important that the EU efforts don't duplicate what NATO does. That what EU does is not an alternative to NATO, but actually strengthen the European pillar inside NATO. And the reason why I say that is that we cannot afford to have two command structures. NATO has a strong command structure. We cannot duplicate that command structure. And I also say it because I welcome stronger EU efforts on defence, but EU efforts on defence can never replace NATO, especially not so after Brexit. Because when UK leaves the European Union, then their biggest defence budget, United States, will be outside the EU, of course, but also the second largest defence budget will be outside the EU, the United Kingdom. So then, when after Brexit, 80% of NATO's defence expenditures will come from non-EU allies. The European Union cannot protect Europe by itself. It has to be a transatlantic effort and also supported by non-EU European allies. I think that this is also about geography, not only about money, but European security is dependent on, or at least it's good to have Norway in the north, to have Turkey in the south, and then in the west you have United States, Canada and United Kingdom. So yes, we welcome stronger European efforts. I think it's extremely good to address the fragmentation of European defence industry, to bring in more capabilities, to increase defence spending, but it cannot replace NATO. European security is dependent on transatlantic bond. Thank you.